Oh, sorry, I was just reading the latest issue of MBUK magazine, which is in the shops right about now. Welcome to Tech of the Month. You join me for this episode of Tech of the Month in my living room on my brand new sofa, which is very comfortable. I've got 3 items for you. We're going to start with a couple. Got a nice waterproof onesie and a new back end for a boutique bike that I've been riding for a little while. I'm actually going to pass over to Jack Luke, who's got a few interesting little items too, and then we're going to come back to me at the end for a brand new bike from Vitus. So the first item is the new Endura MT500 waterproof one-piece 2. So I tested the previous version of the MT500 onesie and I wasn't entirely convinced by it for a couple of reasons. Mostly, I didn't think the fit was particularly great. However, it's been updated, it's got a new fit, it's got a new waterproof material that apparently is even better than the previous version, and it's got a few new features, so I think it's actually going to be pretty good. So shall we see how it actually looks? Well, there we are. I'm in the onesie. Now, what I like about this generation of the onesie is that it is split between the top and the bottom. So at the front, it doesn't actually join, it joins at the hips, like the previous version. But what Endura have done this time round is that at the back, there's a little baffle so it looks like you're wearing a separate jacket and trouser. And this marks the Endura out aesthetically because the other ones don't have this sort of split look and makes it look like you're wearing a set of pajamas. So Endura are using a new material on this onesie. It's called the DexShell 40DR triple layer material. So it's got plenty of breathability and plenty of waterproofing. So it should keep you nice and dry and nice and comfortable. Obviously, I've not tested this out in the mud yet. Now you are obviously wearing a full waterproof outfit, so it is going to get a little bit warm. Fortunately, Endura have provided you with plenty of ventilation options. It feels like the cut has been improved too, and that was the issues I had with the previous version. There's less excess material around the arms and around the legs, so it feels like it's not going to be too big and bulky and baggy when you're riding along. So it's not the cheapest item out there though, but this combined waterproof jacket and waterproof trouser comes in at £419.99. But don't forget, you are getting a top line jacket and a top line waterproof pant for that. Now, if £420 is a little bit too expensive for you, don't worry, because Endura do have another line called the single track range, and there is a single track onesie there and it's available for £200. Again, not cheap, but it is a waterproof jacket with a waterproof trouser, and in my opinion, onesies as a general thing are really damn good when you're riding all the way through winter. Well, it's not raining inside my house, fortunately, so I'm going to take this off and go and get the next item, which is a new back end for Hope's HB130. So this is my Hope HB130 trail bike. I've been running this for a year as my long-termer, both in MBUK and on BikeRadar. Now, they have updated their trail bike for 2021 with a few different things. Notably for consumers is a move to a 148mm boost rear end instead of the 130mm version that's here. Now Hope say there's no improvement in performance because they stand by their 130mm rear hub spacing, but they say it just makes life a little bit easier if you're out and about and have any issues with your rear wheel, and I would agree with that fully. What they've also done is created a mullet version of this bike, or a mullet upgrade to this bike, if you want to call it as such. The HB130 is a 130mm 29er trail bike. However, by swapping to this little rocker link here from the original one I have here, and putting in a 27.5 rear wheel, you therefore have a mullet bike which comes with 140mm of rear wheel travel, so it's increased the travel by 10mm, and apparently doesn't change the pedaling shape, dynamics or feel of the bike. So swapping the link is incredibly easy. It's a case of 3 different bolts. You've got your main one here, you've got your frame bolt here, and obviously your shock mounting bolts down here. And literally it's like a 5-minute job if you're moderately incapable at doing bike mechanics. So it is very easy. So why would you do this? Why would you change from a bigger 29-inch wheel to a smaller 27.5 at the back and not at the front? Well, keeping the 29-inch wheel at the front gives you all those sort of 29er benefits, the increased rollover, increased comfort you might add. At the back, what Hope is saying is that having this smaller wheel makes the bike more nimble through tight, twisty tracks, easier to turn direction, easier to sort of control when things are getting a little bit nadgery. You will lose some of that little rollover ability, but you do get 10 mil of extra travel at the back. Is it worth it? Well, I haven't ridden the bike yet, but I'm going to go and give it a go over the next few weeks, and I'll let you know how I get on with the mulleted version of Hope's HB130 trail bike. Now, the last point about this is that it's maybe not the cheapest setup. It's £465, and for that you get this actually really nicely CNC little linkage with some fresh bearings in there, and the Hope Pro 4 based Vetus 26 wheel with the tyre included. So let's take a trip across Bristol over to Jack's living room, see what he's got in store in this episode of Tech of the Month.
Thanks, Tom. I love the look of your waterproof pyjamas. Today I'm going to bring you a bit of a wheel and tyre special from the world of gravel, starting off with Schwalbe's new Aerothan ultra lightweight thermoplastic inner tubes. Yes, that is correct. There has been some innovation in the world of inner tubes. As I mentioned, the Aerothan inner tubes are made of a thermoplastic polyurethane, which is said to be more puncture resistant and, of course, lighter than a regular butyl tube. We've seen similar things from the likes of Tubolito, but this is the first time we've seen this style of tube from a really mainstream large manufacturer. The Aerothan is available in 8 different sizes, starting at 41 grams for a tube suitable for 25 to 28 mm road tyres. Now for me, the main thing of interest with this tube is its packability. Compared to a standard butyl tube, it takes up far less space in your tool roll, which is no bad thing because it means you can stuff in extra snacks, extra layers, extra gloves, what have you. But from Schwalbe's perspective, they're most keen to point out that the tubes are more puncture resistant than a standard butyl or latex tube. According to Schwalbe's own testing, to puncture one of its extra light tubes takes around 8 newtons of force, whereas for this it takes a whopping 47 newtons. Now that is just for, a kind of prick puncture, essentially pointing it with like a piece of flint or something. You'd still have to get through the tyre to get to that, but it is definitely going to be stronger overall. Likewise, again in Schwalbe's own testing, they were shown to be more resistant to snakebite punctures as well. Now where you will lose out compared to a tubeless setup or using latex tubes is in rolling resistance. For this tube, in Schwalbe's own testing, it was shown to have a rolling resistance of 14.5 watts. Now that compares to 14 watts for a latex tube or 13.9 watts for Schwalbe's Pro 1 tubeless tyre. Now that doesn't sound like a great deal, and that's because it's not. But if you're a total aero nerd or you're completely focused on performance, that is something worth considering. Prices for the tubes start at €27.90, rising to €29.90 depending on the size of tube. Again, for me, it is very interesting to see some innovation in the world of inner tubes, but it is that packability which is most appealing to me, and I can totally see myself putting this into my tool roll as a little spare if my tubeless setup ever fails. Next we have a small selection of the enormous number of gravel tyres which have made their way into my life over the last few months. Starting off with the WTB Byway SG2, all of WTB's new gravel tyres over 37mm wide are now also available in a brand new 120 TPI puncture-proof casing. WTB's all-new SG2 technology is an ultra-lightweight nylon puncture protection layer which runs from bead to bead on its gravel tyres. WTB claims that the fibres used within that layer are uniquely flat, and with that it means that less rubber overall is used to essentially fill in the gaps in that fabric. This is said to keep rolling resistance nice and low while maintaining that same kind of ride quality you would get with its non-puncture proof tyres. It also has the added benefit of reducing weight compared to your typical puncture resistant tyre. Finally, it is also said to improve air retention compared to its standard 60 TPI casings. Next, we have the Terravale Washburn, which the brand claims is its fastest rolling gravel tyre. Based on a largely slick centre tread with slightly more aggressive side nods, this is really your kind of tyre for hard-packed gravel trails, or if you're into actual gravel racing on gravel roads rather than the single track nonsense we like to indulge in here in the UK, this could be a really good choice. That raised centre section will also give you lower rolling resistance overall when riding on the road. The tyre is available in 38 and 42mm widths for 700C tyres, and it's also available in a 47mm width for 650B tyres. The tyre is available in two different casing options. The first is a 60 TPI durable option, which features a woven nylon layer between the outer rubber and the inner casing, and is said to give the tyres exceptional sidewall strength against abrasion and cuts. The light and supple casing option, as the name suggests, comes with a better ride quality overall, though you will pay the price in terms of lower puncture resistance overall. The tyres cost between $55 and $60, with international pricing to be confirmed. Finally, we have this really unwieldy, unwrapped Panaracer Gravel King SS. Launched a couple of months ago, the Gravel King SS sits between the standard Gravel King and the Gravel King SK, with a kind of more slick overall tread which is better suited, much like the Terravail, to hard-packed gravel trails. Much like many tyres on the market, the Gravel King SS is available in two casing options, the standard SS and the SS Plus, the latter getting a bead-to-bead puncture protection layer. On our scales, the puncture-proof version weighs 462 grams, which compares to 419 grams for the standard version. The tyre has a minimalist, almost like vial tread section in the centre, which again will give lower rolling resistance on hard trails or on roads, and that transitions to more aggressive, kind of long, rectangular shoulder blocks. Now across both 650B and 700C sizers, this tyre is available in 8 different options, and I'm not going to list them all here, because that would make a very boring video. But safe to say, there's probably a Gravel King SS out there for you. For now though, we're going to pass back over to my handsome, friendly, lovable, cuddly colleague, Tom Marvin, who's going to talk us through some saucy new bikes from Vitus.
Thanks Jack, great selection of bits and pieces. So the final one this month is the new Vetus Escape trail bike, and by extension the new Vetus Summit Enduro bike, which is in the workshop. So why have we got this here? Well, Vetus claim that the Escape and the Summit, the new versions of, are the cheapest high-performance carbon mountain bikes on the market, and that's a pretty big claim. And the 3-bike Vetus Escape range starts at £1,999. If you want to spend a bit more, you get the Vetus Escape CRS, $3,199.99, so £2,700, and that is this one here. So I won't talk about the Summit too much. There's a story on BikeRadar.com about that, and it's linked to in the description. The Escape is their 140mm trail bike with a 150mm fork up front, and it comes in both 650B and 29-inch options. The interesting thing about these bikes is that actually the Escape and the Summit share the front triangle. The differences comes in the aluminium rear triangle and obviously this rocker here, allowing you to swap between the two wheel sizes and the different travel options. So the big change for 2021 is the move away from a fully floating shock rear suspension system to a more traditional 4-bar or horse-link suspension system on these bikes. Vitus felt that the 4-bar suspension linkage actually gave them the performance they really wanted for the bikes, hence moving towards this system for 2021. The geometry is very much modern with a long, slack and low attitude. A size large Escape in a 29er format comes with a 478mm reach, which is pretty darn long, and it comes with a 65-degree head angle. You get 440mm chainstays, which is kind of like middling, but kind of matches the front end quite nicely, and a 440mm seat tube, which is actually fairly short on a size large. However, that has been done to allow you to fit really long dropper posts, which, a lot of people are wanting to do these days, 175, even 200mm, depending on how long your legs are. Now, Vitus say that despite there is a kink in the seat tube, they have got enough room in there to get a full long dropper post into the frame so that it doesn't sort of interfere with the main pivot. So you can get those longer drop posts on that shorter seat tube, which is a very good thing. Now, Vitus have introduced a new way of measuring bikes into their geometry charts, and it's called saddle layback. It actually works quite similar to reach, in that it's the position of the middle of the saddle at full extension from a vertical line going up from the BB. So if you know anything about reach, that's vertical line up from the BB to the centre of the head tube, and that's your reach figure. Saddle layback is straight up from the BB and then back to the middle of the saddle at its pedalling height. Now obviously different bike sizes have different average pedalling heights for different size riders, so they've taken a particular average and they've given it this distance here. Basically, they're trying to create a measure of the saddle position relative to the BB that is ideal for each size bike. And this means that the effective and the actual seat angles are adjusted for the different frame sizes to make sure that that pedalling position on the bike is consistent across the sizes of the bikes. I hope you're still with me. If you're not, go down to the description of this video because there is a link to Seb's incredible ultimate guide to mountain bike geometry, and it is explained in there, hopefully. So that was this month's Tech of the Month. You have seen Endura's new one-piece waterproof onesie. You've also seen a new mullet back end for the Hope HB130 trail bike. Jack showed you a few fancy bits and pieces, and we finished off with the Vetus Escape and the Summit new trail bikes from Vitus. So, let us know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe and click the little bell icon so that every time we upload a new video, you get a notification.